Hey guys, Hikari here, and today's chapter of My Hero Academia was very interesting. We actually start off the chapter with a flashback going back to, I'm assuming, when All For One was talking to the doctor, and we see the doctor basically talking about Shigaraki and the quirk destroying bullets or the quirk destroying drug, and he tells us that he actually started to develop the quirk destroying bullets the minute that he got them from Shigaraki, who obviously kind of stole them from Shisaki in his whole operation. He mentions that it originally came from a quirk in the fact that it also can reverse causality, and he also even mentions the fact that it kind of confirms the doomsday theory, which of course Aries' quirk is probably the prime example of that whole doomsday theory that he theorized, being kind of true. Her quirk is so powerful, and it's the amalgamation of so many other different quirks probably that lead to something that is basically very overpowered, and it really does confirm the fact that his doomsday theory had so much validity to it, even though nobody really believed him at the time that he proposed it. At the end of the flashback, though, we see that the doctor's talking to All For One, basically saying that in case anything happens to me after you break out of jail, I'm going to leave you with that quirk bullet or that quirk reversal thing, and I'm going to kind of leave it to you just in case I'm not able to give it to you personally. We actually then cut back to the fight where Hawks, Endeavor, and everybody else is fighting against All For One, and we see that he really has gone back to his prime body. Like, everything's reversed. He's back to as probably strong as he was pre-fight with All Might way back in the day, and we all know just how powerful he was back when he was fighting against the prime All Might. He even talks to Endeavor, basically saying, take pride in the fact that you kind of pushed me into using this against you, so take pride in the fact that I'm going to be using my strongest form to have to take you guys all down. We then see everybody reacting to the fact that he's come back completely, and they're all just very shocked and surprised, saying that, he's back to his prime, his body's back, and nobody's even able to move at this point. And we see that, he starts to go on the offensive, he starts to move, and he jumps down off of a ledge, I'm assuming, and he says, my body is as light as silk. He's jumping down into the middle of the war, and we see that he goes to a woman, and he actually steals her quirk and her cloak, and I don't know if we've seen her before, I can't remember, but he's definitely stolen her quirk, but I don't know the repercussions of this. I don't know if we've already seen her and we know what her quirk is, or if she's just a brand new person we're going to figure out what exactly he stole, or if he just stole it just because he could, but I'm not 100% sure if this is going to be something important moving forward, but I do think we should keep an eye on this. He then says something very interesting. He says that now that he's used the rewind, he's actually going to disappear and pass away, and I'm assuming this is very much like how when Deku was using the quirk with Eri, how she was kind of on him and he kept rewinding even after he had finished fighting, and he was just going way back in time. So I'm assuming it's going to be something similar here, where it isn't really going to just keep him at that point in time where he was young. It seems like he's just going to keep rewinding until he's literally gone, but he's obviously saying that, even though that's the case, he's already passed on the torch to Shigaraki, and that he's going to have Shigaraki kind of go ahead with his will. Hawks instantly realizes just how bad of a situation this is, so he starts to try to stall for time by asking Endeavor or All For One questions, and he really wants to at least stall for as long as possible, maybe to wait for Deku to get there, to wait for backup, to wait for something to happen. So he's trying to stall and make sure that he isn't able to move at least for as long as he possibly can make him. And we see that All For One is actually talking about the fact that he was influenced again by the comics that he used to read, and that's kind of the reason why he became a villain. And it seems like he truly does do all of this just to try to be a villain. He essentially mentions that villains are feared because they do bad things, and the reason he does bad things is because everybody will fear him for it. He basically says that, and that the heroes aren't going to really like it. So it seems like to his core, he really does just want to be a villain. That's his whole premise. That's his whole thing that he's working for. He just wants to be a villain that goes against the ideals of the general population and the heroes. So throughout his soul, his whole being is just that of a villain. And it really does show that all that he does is just because that's what the heroes wouldn't want, and that's why he does it. He then tells Hawks that's why I want to obstruct the future of the world, and that's all that he's really ever wished for, kind of giving more validity to the fact that he really does just want to become a villain. We cut back to the United States of America actually, and we see that Timothy Agpar, the one dude that was with Star and Stripes the last time we saw her in the story, is actually talking to some of the other, I'm assuming, presidents or representatives of the US, and he basically tells them that right now is their time to strike. They need to do something right now, or else they're not going to be able to actually fight against Shigaraki. And we see that the president is actually saying that, they're already a half step or more of a step into the red zone than all of the other countries, and that they should actually try to take a step back since they've essentially bared their fangs at Shigaraki throughout the Star and Stripes incident, like he was saying. He even mentions that at this point, the way they see it, that Shigaraki's almost an unkillable monster, and that they're actually going to be trying to follow the other developed nations in coming to terms with the fact that Shigaraki's going to be ruling over them. And we see that this doesn't fly well with Timothy. He's saying that, how are we just going to let him walk all over us? How are we just gonna, find a way that we can live under his rule, that we shouldn't do that, and that it wouldn't be right for us to kind of get rid of all the stuff that Star and Stripes did, all that she sacrificed just to try to live under the rule of a villain, of somebody like Shigaraki, where at any moment he could just flip the switch and say that I'm going to take out all of humanity. So it just doesn't make sense for them to actually try to lay down and just let Shigaraki do whatever he wants, and that they shouldn't let what Star and Stripes sacrifice go to waste. We of course see him ask them directly, what does Star and Stripes do all of this for? And that, heroes are supposed to uplift the other ones behind them. They're supposed to uplift the children, and those children are supposed to uplift the next generation. So it doesn't make sense to just let what Star and Stripes did go to waste. We should use this opportunity to uplift the people that she tried to get back up and have them help us out and help in that situation. And this is actually where we get into a controversial part of the chapter, and I'm going to kind of review this part, but I'm going to give my thoughts on it after I go over what really happened in the chapter. So we see that after he says that, we see Edgeshot walking towards Bakugo. Best Genius is basically saying, Edgeshot, what are you doing here, I'm assuming? And Edgeshot then talks about the fact that he's a ninja hero and that he's actually been into a lot of different bodies since he's able to really make himself small. He's able to slip into nearly any surface, so it makes sense that he's technically been able to enter people's bodies. But he mentions that and he says, like, hell, I'll give up, and he's telling Mirko to struggle. If your head is all that's left, then bite him. And we see that Shigaraki's basically saying, stop, it's useless, what are you doing? You're not going to be able to accomplish anything. And we see that he's actually going to go into Bakugo's body somehow, and I'm assuming maybe stitch up his heart or somehow become one with Bakugo, maybe use his entire being as a sort of, patch or a bandage on Bakugo's heart to kind of get it back and running. I'm not exactly sure how he's going to do this, but he's definitely going to be sacrificing himself to try to bring back Bakugo. And we actually see the chapter end off with him using a Nimpo technique, Nimpo 1000 Sheet Pierce Extreme, and the chapter ends up with him saying that I'll become his heart. And I don't know how I feel about this. I do think that Bakugo should definitely come back, but I feel like at the same time, if they were going to bring him back so casually or so fast after he actually passed away, I feel like maybe Bakugo shouldn't have died in the first place, and that we should have just had him maybe get injured for a bit or something, or maybe kind of get blown back by Shigaraki. Like maybe Shigaraki literally throws him back and Bakugo has to kind of come back in. But I feel like if they were going to bring him back instantaneously almost anyway, since he's only really been quote unquote passed away or dead for maybe 3 chapters, 2 or 3, so I feel like if they were going to bring him back so quickly anyways, there was kind of no point in doing all this. And that even if he was trying to give Edgeshot a moment to kind of be a big hero, I think there was better ways to kind of go about it, at least in my opinion. So I do like the fact that Bakugo's coming back. I mentioned so many times that I don't want Bakugo to be passed away, but also I feel like there was a better way to kind of implement this, and that maybe Bakugo shouldn't have actually passed away quote unquote in the first place, and that maybe there was better ways to kind of get him out of the fight for now and kind of get him back in, using all of the other heroes. So I just don't know how I feel about the fact that Edgeshot is kind of coming in just to kind of come back or bring him back. It makes sense since Edgeshot, his power is literally the fact that he can get into any place, so it wouldn't be unplausible for him to literally go into Bakugo's body and kind of jumpstart his heart. But I just think the way that the entire thing was implemented ended could have been done a little bit better, in my opinion, and we're just gonna have to see how things go forward from now. But I definitely want everybody to let me know what you thought of the chapter in the comments. Did you kind of like the fact that Bakugo's coming back, or do you not really like how he's coming back? I, of course, love the fact that we are still getting Bakugo and that he isn't going to pass away, but I think it could have been handled in a better way than how it was right now. But only time will really tell, so I'm just going to wait for the next chapters to come out before I can kind of give, you know, a big overview or a big look at the entire situation. But definitely let me know what you guys thought of the chapter in the comments. Also, like the video if you liked it, and subscribe, as it really does help me out, and I really do appreciate each and every person that sticks around for the videos. Also, subscribe to my socials or follow my socials on my TikTok, where I'm going to be posting a lot of shorter videos. I just want to thank everybody for watching, and I'm out. Peace.